Did you know that there are 4.4 million new businesses created in the US each year, and 99% of those are small businesses? If you are a self employed individual, you're going to want to stay tuned to this episode of the Unlocking Doors
Mhm.
podcast. Michelle Castle and I are going to be talking about what you can do to uh, prepare yourself to buy a home this year. So, Michelle, let's talk about
Mm,
self employed individuals and
mhm.
what they need to be doing um, to get ready to buy a home with their tax returns, their uh, business write-offs, all that good stuff.
Such a
Bank
good
statements.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now let's define self-employed.
Yes.
So if you receive a 1099, you're considered self-employed. And that's a misunderstanding a lot of folks, I think, have.
Mm-hmm.
I There's a lot of jobs where you have the option to either be paid W-2 or contract labor 1099.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny. I'll be talking to a customer and they'll go, "Well, but if I go 1099, I'll make more money." Well, yeah, because they're not taking taxes out, but you still owe taxes.
Right.
So there's that whole misunderstanding. Well, I don't have to pay taxes at the same rate, but you might, just depending. I mean, you got to talk to your accountant about that.
Yeah.
Um, but that's considered self-employed. Or if you opened up a small business, you got a retail shop, or got an online shop.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's self-employed too. So I just wanted to define that because a lot of people have that misunderstanding that I work for someone. They just give me a 1099.
Yeah.
You're self-employed.
You're self-employed.
You're
Absolutely.
self-employed.
So when it comes to qualifying for a mortgage, there's a big difference. Well, not necessarily a big difference, but there are different qualifications that a self-employed individual has to go through versus somebody who's paid with a W-2 income. Talk to me a little bit about like somebody who's getting qualified for a 1099 or, they're a 1099 employee and they're coming to you to get pre-approved. What documentation do they have to provide typically for
In that
pre-approval?
case, yeah. So we've got to have tax returns.
Right.
Because if you're self-employed, you qualify for write-offs.
Right.
And
How many years of tax returns?
2 years typically.
2 years typically.
Now, if you've been in the same line of work, just say for instance, that you've been what's an example where you were in the same line of work and then you just opened a new business similar to it under a different name?
So I have a very specific scenario, and
Of course you do.
I have an acquaintance who he's actually a really good friend of mine who he was an employee at a franchise.
Okay.
He had the opportunity to invest in that franchise, doing the same exact job. Just now he owns the business that he was operating. He went basically from working for corporate to they gave him the opportunity to open his own franchise, doing the same job. He's now a 1099 employee where he was a W-2 salaried employee, but it's the exact same line of work.
He's going to need 2 years because he doesn't have proof that he's owned a business, operated a business, stayed in business for 2 years.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to have that experience.
Yeah.
And just because you've done that work before doesn't mean that you know how to operate as a self-employed
Okay.
or business owner, because
Right.
that's what he'd be in that case.
Gotcha. Okay.
So-
And that's actually, in talking with him, that's one of the things that he's been talking with his CPA, his lender that he's working with and all that good stuff. And so that's a great point that you bring up is just, and one thing I see so many times with self-employed buyers is especially somebody who may be in that position where they just switched and it's the same industry or it's a similar, it's like, well, I made that money. Like,
Yeah, I know how to
as a
do the
W-2,
job.
I know how to do the job.
Yeah.
And then they switch and they don't want to talk to a lender and get pre-approved. And I'm even a proponent of, have the underwriter look at everything too.
Right.
Because that's where it really matters. Like your opinion doesn't matter,
My
Michelle.
opinion,
It's
it
the
does. I can
underwriter.
fight like hell, but it doesn't mean my opinion matters.
Just kidding. The underwriter really is the ultimate one that calls the
Yeah.
shots. And so that's why I'm always a proponent of, if you're self-employed, have a mortgage underwriter look at that and say, actually, we need this documentation. Because what I've seen a lot of times is these people want to go out looking at homes because they make good money.
Yeah, right.
And then they also write off a lot of expenses, which on their tax returns may look different than what reality is. And so they're looking at a house that they don't qualify for.
Right.
And then they're like,
a lot
well,
of times the cash flow doesn't match the the tax returns.
Yeah, exactly. And
I mean,
so
very often.
that's one thing where, I mean, from a business standpoint, it's smart to have a CPA who's giving you all the legitimate write-offs, and you're taking advantage of those, tax incentives that are provided legally. And so, but at the same time, it can definitely hurt your buying power whenever you're going to
Yeah.
buy a home.
I think even if you're thinking about selling a house this year,
Yeah.
you need to really you need a strategy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you need to be talking to your lender, you need to be talking to your accountant and make sure that the way it's been in the past, it's putting a strategy together. It's reviewing all of that, whether you're looking to buy or sell. It's so funny. We'll have people call all the time and they'll go, well, I'm self-employed, so I make a lot of money. I just don't show it. I mean, I hear that over and over and over, and I get it. But if you're wanting to borrow money, you need to show that you have the ability to pay, and it's not based on...
Yeah, you've got to be bankable on paper.
Yeah,
is what I always tell people.
You got to be bankable on paper. Now, I mean, there's other alternatives out there, but you're going to pay a lot higher interest rate.
Right.
We can prove through cash flow that you're bringing in the money just through bank statements, but you're going to have a lot more money down, and you're going to have a higher interest rate.
Yeah.
So,
and one thing, just in my experience with working with self-employed individuals, and I'm a self-employed individual myself, and I've bought a lot of property, and I've been through the process, is you need to be patient with the fact that the person giving you hundreds of thousands of dollars for a mortgage wants documentation. And it's got to be in a certain way. I see so many of my clients, they're like, well, the lenders asked me for 2 years of bank statements and 2 years of tax return. I don't know if it's 2 years, but they want to see my bank statements.
Most of the time it's going to be 2 years of tax returns.
Yeah. And they want to see this. They want to see an updated P&L. They want to see, and just all these things. And they get annoyed. And I'm like, they're fixing to give you several $100,000, some of them $1 million, millions of dollars.
Right.
They kind of want to make sure that you can pay them back.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing I just want to educate or prepare the buyers for, is that, it's best to have that strategy session up front, get those documents in as soon as possible, and figure out what you qualify for or what you need to change on, what you need to change with your CPA.
Now's the time to have those conversations with your accountant.
Yeah, because we're coming into tax season for 2023.
Just as an example, there's a difference on how you write off vehicle expenses.
Right.
I mean, you could write off vehicle expenses, you could write off mileage.
Right.
One is calculated different than the other when it comes to qualifying for a mortgage loan. Why you do one over the other, I can't tell you what would be best for you, but there is a difference in how we're going to calculate it whenever it comes time to figuring out what you qualify for.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, having that conversation early is always a good idea.
Yeah. And if you're a self-employed individual, I highly recommend a great bookkeeper, a great CPA, somebody who's going to keep you, because that's where I see also, it's like, hey, I make really good money. I don't really keep good books. I don't keep, and that's I like to sell real estate. I don't like to do books. You can ask my bookkeeper and CPA. They know.
Me neither.
And so, that's the biggest thing is like, be prepared for that stuff, be organized, and just...
Yeah, don't bring it in a
yourself
Walmart
up.
sack.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, set yourself up for success and have a strategy behind it. So anyways, I think that's really all that needs to be said about it. You have anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, no.
Okay, cool. You're sure? You hesitated. But guys, if you're self-employed and you're thinking about buying real estate this year, we would love to talk to you. Of course, Michelle can strategize with you and your CPA, or we can, she's got great referrals for a CPA. So do I, if you're wanting to get in touch with people, just to make sure that you're doing everything that you should to reward yourself with the property that you want, with all the hard work that you put into your business. So if you have any questions, be sure and reach out to us. Be sure and share this episode with a friend who is self-employed, support their business, and go buy something from them as well. Subscribe to our channel, and we'll catch you on the next episode.